gonna go DIY whitewood. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing. We are the original raw solid wood furniture manufacturers. This guy, this kitchen work center, was actually on its way to the thrift store when we nabbed it up, and we are going to breathe new life into this solid wood piece. If you're in the market for a kitchen work center, we have a lot of them, a lot of great choices. This is actually a hybrid, because it is so old, of our $4.99 work center and our $60/34 work center. So the $4.99 or the WC $4.99 work center is this size, but now it's a lot more encased. The upgraded version from the $4.99 is actually 60/34, and it's the WC 60/34. And this is the model in which it looks like. Come on, let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use our 100% acetone to wipe down all of the painted surfaces really, really well. The great thing about acetone is it's going to get all of that dirt, grease, muck, mess that's been put on the furniture over time, and it's gonna dry really quickly. So what we're using after we cleaned this whole piece with the acetone is steel wool. We got a bag of this extra fine steel wool, and it actually cuts into the paint a little bit and leaves a really smooth, silky surface to work with. But the other thing that I really wanted to point out is you'll notice where the paint is really, really chipped up and dented, that the steel wool, even though it's really, really fine, because it cuts into it, actually smooths out all of that paint and that roughness. The most important part of the finishing process, especially when you're working with a project like this, where you're redoing furniture, you're not starting with unfinished, is the prep. Have in your mind at the onset, prep, prep, prep. So once we've prepped all of our painted surfaces, we're going to move on to breaking down the stained surfaces. We're going to use our palm sander with a 60 grit sandpaper. It's really going to cut through that stain and help us to get to the unfinished part. Even though we're doing this on a fast-forwarded loop, you're going to be really using a very slow motion when you're doing it, but always keeping it in motion. So just a quick recap for what we've done so far. And I cannot lie, folks, this has been a bear. These fingers are worked to the bone. This was a lot of sanding. So we're down to our raw wood on the pieces that we're gonna finish, or stain, I should say. And we've sanded all of the wood pieces that we're going to paint in a milk finish with the steel wool. Everything's nice and smooth now. On the unfinished pieces, we started with a 60 grit to get all of that finish off, to cut through it. And then we came back with a 150 grit sandpaper so that it would be smooth and it'll accept the stain. What's something that is so important to remember is that if something isn't smooth at this point, it's not ever gonna get smooth. So get it nice and velvety smooth now, and then you're good to go. Let's get started. Once we're done with our sanding, we're going to thoroughly wipe everything off with that tack cloth. This sounds really, really obvious, but a quick tip is always start cleaning from the top down. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to staining our piece of furniture. We are going to use this beautiful antique walnut. This is an oil-based gel stain. It is gorgeous. We've used it before. We had to move inside. It got a little chilly out there. And optimum temperatures for staining furniture are in the mid-70s, which is what this is. We're still going to have some drying time, but the warm 70-ish degree weather is going to help us. Let's get started. We like to just go ahead and pour a little bit of the stain onto the tabletop instead of dipping our foam brush in and out of the can. Once you've poured that onto the top, you're then going to take your foam brush and just start wiping it into the wood. Once you've used your foam brush to just work that into the wood, this is where the magic happens. With the blue utility towel, you're just gonna really work it into the wood surface. And this is what makes it so beautiful. So next, we're gonna move on to our milk paint. Now we're going over black in this piece, so we know it's going to take more than one coat. So the first coat, we're not gonna worry too much. We just wanna give it a nice, good priming. Because we've done an awesome job at prepping this piece, this goes on so smooth and velvety. It's so fun to see it start to come to life. We're using our foam brush for this first coat. We love foam brushes because they're very, very inexpensive and they're so easy to use. So we've gotten one coat on everything. After this first coat, we're going to sand everything with the 220 grit sandpaper. We don't want to remove any of the paint. All we want to do is to make sure our surface is nice and smooth. Once we've completed our sanding, you guessed it, time to clean again. Grab that tack cloth and get all of the debris off of your piece. So for our second coat of paint, milk paint, on the base, we're going to use our nifty sprayer. This is going to just give it a nice, even, professional look. Now when you're using a sprayer, it's really important to remember to keep it in motion. Again, between every step, you're going to be painting or staining, sanding, cleaning. Then the same step all over again. So once we've gotten 2 coats of our milk paint on the surface and we've done our staining, we are going to move on to doing our top coat. The top coat is what's going to protect all of the surfaces for years to come. We used 2 different top coats for this project. On the stain, we're going to use General Finishes oil-based gel top coat in satin. It is a really, really protective top coat. On the milk paint, we're going to use General Finishes high performance top coat water-based. We did 3 coats of both top coats. Just like when you're staining and painting, in between each layer, you're going to be sanding with that 220 sandpaper and wiping everything off with the tack cloth. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are all wrapped up. I have to tell you, it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work too. It took several days to complete this process, and it just turned out gorgeous. It's real solid wood, so it's ready to go for another 15, 16 years, and then probably is gonna have to have another touch up. We saved a ton of money remaking over an old piece. If you bought this brand new from a retailer, unfinished, it would be right around $999 for this 3-piece set. If you bought it customized, finished, it'd be right around $1,800. So for about $120 worth of sandpaper, steel wool, milk paint, performance top coats, and all of that, we saved a ton of money. Thank you so much for joining us. Please come back again, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.